there is a painful truth that most people spend their entire lives trying to escape. The harder you chase someone's attention, the faster they seem to disappear. Have you ever noticed that the people who beg for love are often the ones who receive the least of it? And the people who seem almost impossible to impress somehow become unforgettable? Why? Because attraction has almost nothing to do with perfect looks, clever pickup lines, or endless texting. It begins in places most people never dare to explore. Your silence, your emotional control, your willingness to lose what everyone else is terrified of losing. Deep inside, every human being can sense desperation. They may not admit it, but they can feel it, and once they feel it, something changes. Respect slowly disappears. Curiosity fades. Mystery dies. Marcus Aurelius understood this nearly 2,000 years ago. He knew that the strongest person in any relationship is not the loudest, the richest, or the most charming. It is the one who remains master of himself. Stay with me until the very end, because the final suggestion may completely change the way you think about attraction, not only toward other people, but toward yourself. If these ideas speak to something you've quietly struggled with, subscribe, leave a like, and join those who choose discipline over desperation. Now let us begin with 6 words that sound incredibly simple, but almost nobody truly means them. I want nothing from you. Read them again. I want nothing from you. Not because you don't care, not because you've become cold, but because your happiness no longer depends on another person's approval. Those 6 words carry a quiet power that cannot be faked. Most conversations are hidden negotiations. I'll text first if you make me feel important. I'll compliment you if you validate me. I'll stay if you keep choosing me. People rarely say these things aloud, yet they communicate them constantly, and others feel it. The Stoics believed that the greatest prison is emotional dependence. When someone else controls your peace, they also control your decisions. That is why Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that external things belong to fortune, never to us. When you stop asking people to complete you, something unexpected happens. You become complete enough to attract them naturally, because confidence is not loud, it is freedom. Real attraction begins the moment your emotional survival no longer depends on another human being. Most people misunderstand attraction because they confuse attention with value. Someone may reply to your messages every hour. They may compliment your appearance. They may even promise forever. Yet none of these things prove genuine attraction. People often chase what entertains them, but they commit to what they respect. Respect is born when someone sees that your emotions cannot be manipulated. Think about the people you've admired most in your own life. Were they constantly trying to convince everyone to like them, or did they carry themselves with quiet certainty? There is something unforgettable about a person who refuses to abandon themselves just to keep someone else comfortable. That is not arrogance. That is self-respect, and self-respect is magnetic. Now here comes the first hard truth. Many people don't actually want love. They want relief. They want someone to silence the loneliness they refuse to face alone. They want another person to distract them from insecurity, from overthinking, from fear. But when attraction becomes medicine for emotional wounds, it eventually becomes poison, because no relationship can permanently heal a person who keeps abandoning himself. Marcus Aurelius never taught people to seek control over others. He taught mastery over oneself. The difference changes everything. Imagine 2 men walking into the same room. One desperately hopes everyone notices him. The other simply notices himself. Which one feels heavier? Which one feels calmer? Which one quietly changes the atmosphere without speaking very much? People are drawn toward inner certainty because certainty creates safety. Chaos attracts attention. Peace attracts trust, and trust is what eventually becomes love. There is another truth nobody likes hearing. Silence often says more than perfect words ever could. We live in a world addicted to constant explanation. Someone ignores us. We send another message. Someone becomes distant. We write paragraphs. Someone hesitates. We panic. But emotional discipline asks a different question. What if your silence reveals more strength than your arguments ever could? Silence forces people to confront their own thoughts. It creates space, mystery, reflection. The insecure person fills every silence because they fear being forgotten. The disciplined person allows silence because they know their value does not disappear when their voice does. That difference changes relationships forever. Another reason these 6 words are so powerful is because they remove invisible pressure. People naturally move away from emotional pressure. No one enjoys feeling responsible for another person's happiness. When you silently communicate, "I want nothing from you," you also communicate something far deeper. "I already have myself." And strangely, that is exactly when many people begin moving closer, not because you manipulated them, but because your emotional independence gives them room to breathe. This is where loneliness becomes your greatest teacher. Most people fear being alone. Marcus Aurelius embraced solitude because solitude reveals who you become without an audience. Can you enjoy your own company? Can you walk away from someone who repeatedly disrespects you? Can you sleep peacefully, even when someone chooses another path? These questions are uncomfortable, but every answer builds strength. Loneliness either destroys the weak version of you or introduces you to the strongest version you've never met. The choice belongs to you. There comes a moment in every person's life when they experience rejection. The message never answered, the promise never kept, the love never returned. Many spend years trying to understand why, but perhaps the better question is this: what if rejection is not removing love from your life? What if it is removing illusion? Sometimes we fall in love with potential. Sometimes we chase memories instead of reality. Sometimes we keep knocking on doors that quietly closed years ago. The Stoics would remind us that reality deserves acceptance. Fantasy deserves release. You cannot build peace while arguing with reality. That battle always ends in suffering. Now imagine saying those 6 words after rejection. "I want nothing from you." Not with bitterness, not with revenge, not to make someone jealous, but because you finally choose yourself. That is emotional maturity, and maturity has a presence that no performance can imitate. Here is another uncomfortable observation. People often test your boundaries before they respect them, not always intentionally. Sometimes they cancel plans. Sometimes they disappear for days. Sometimes they speak carelessly. Each moment quietly asks the same question: how much of yourself are you willing to sacrifice just to keep me? Many answer by sacrificing everything: their standards, their dignity, their peace. Then they wonder why respect slowly fades. Respect cannot survive where self-respect is repeatedly abandoned. Strong people do not demand better treatment. They quietly refuse worse treatment. That difference is everything. The most attractive person in any room is rarely the most beautiful. It is often the one who is least desperate to be chosen. Neediness makes you predictable. Detachment makes you unforgettable. Not because you become emotionally unavailable, but because your life remains meaningful whether someone stays or leaves. This is the freedom Marcus Aurelius tried to cultivate every single day. He knew life could take away wealth, power, status, even loved ones, but nobody could steal the discipline inside his own mind unless he surrendered it. That lesson still applies today, perhaps even more than ever, because modern life constantly encourages comparison, likes, followers, replies, validation, attention. Yet none of these things create lasting confidence. Confidence grows quietly each time you keep a promise to yourself. Each morning you choose discipline over excuses. Each evening you protect your peace instead of chasing approval. Each moment you remember those 6 words: "I want nothing from you." Ironically, the less you demand from people, the more genuine connections you begin attracting, because they no longer feel like your emotional oxygen. They become your companions instead. There is a profound difference. One creates dependence. The other creates freedom. Freedom is beautiful. Freedom is peaceful. Freedom is attractive. And perhaps, the greatest secret Marcus Aurelius left behind was never about controlling the world around him. It was about refusing to let the world control him. Imagine waking tomorrow without needing anyone to validate your worth. Imagine walking into every conversation knowing your identity cannot be increased by praise or reduced by rejection. Imagine loving deeply without losing yourself completely. That is strength, not the strength of domination, but the strength of inner stability. Few people ever reach it, because it requires something modern culture rarely celebrates: patience, discipline, silence, and the courage to stand alone before standing with someone else. So the next time your heart begs you to chase someone who keeps running, pause. Take a breath. Remember those 6 words. I want nothing from you. Not because your heart has become smaller, but because your self-respect has become larger. Because the person truly worth attracting will never require you to abandon yourself first. And the greatest relationship you will ever build is the one between you and the person staring back at you in the mirror. Master that relationship, and every other relationship in your life begins to change. That is the quiet power Marcus Aurelius understood. That is the strength the world cannot take away, and that is the kind of attraction that never fades. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.